I bought another rare and interesting guitar to demonstrate for you guys today. It is a beautiful 2010 Eclipse-I in vintage black. I know, most of you have seen the 4-knob version of these guitars, but have you seen this? Check it out. It is a full thickness body. First, let's locate it in the 2010 export catalog, and I'm gonna explain why is it in the export catalog. On the first page we have the ESP standard series and the beautiful Eclipse-I CTM in the distressed finish. I wanna find and review one of those. We have the different colors, we have the white, the gloss black with the white binding, and the vintage black, but it's not the full thickness version. There are also a couple of interesting models like the vibrato one, I haven't seen one in person, the Floyd Rose version one that was new for 2010, and the purple. James Hetfield has a Gibson Les Paul custom like this one. I've seen the Edwards purple one, I've never seen the ESP, I gotta find one of those, it's extremely rare. Speaking of rare, here it is, the Eclipse-I CTM full thickness. I'm gonna show you the complete specs in a minute. For now, you just gotta know that this is the full thickness 55mm body. There are a couple of things that make this guitar special. First of all, it's the 4-knob configuration and it's the Les Paul body. It was made around the time when Gibson filed a lawsuit against ESP for the Les Paul and Explorer body shapes. This is why it is in the export catalog for Japan and worldwide, not for the US market. It's because the US patent is applied only for the US territory. Later on in 2020, Gibson found a way to apply this patent to the Japanese territory, limiting the production of the MX250 series, the Explorer-shaped guitars with the banana headstock. But back in 2010, ESP were able to produce some of these full thickness bodies, made for the Japanese market and export for countries other than the US. The problem was that these Eclipses closely resembled the famous Gibson Les Paul custom model. Around that same time, ESP already started changing the shape and making the thinner bodies, changing the lower horn, the configuration of the buttons and some other things. The limited availability of this particular guitar was due to Gibson's lawsuit and limitations in the export. Most of them were distributed for the Japanese market and later on found their way to US and Europe. As a result, not a lot of people have access to the 4-knob version of the Eclipse because it retains a high value. Even today, it's an expensive guitar. And even fewer people realize that there was a full thickness version of this guitar. I'm sure not a lot of you guys have seen one in person. This is the first time I'm seeing one. I remember the first time I found out about these was all the way back in 2011, when I've seen one of them in a local advertisement. And even back then this was extremely expensive and I couldn't afford it. I swore that one day I'm gonna have a guitar like this and be able to review it. And here we are. Almost 14 years later, I was able to find one in great condition. What's even better is that during those 14 years I was able to own the regular Team Body 4-knob version. I saw a couple more vintage black guitars. I was able to play a lot of ESP Eclipses, so I have better understanding of what this is and how it compares to the other guitars. And honestly, I'm not gonna wait till the end of this video to tell you that probably no one will ever miss the full thickness Eclipse. It's a great guitar, but I think the newer versions with the thinner bodies, with the cutaways in the back, are way more comfortable to play. So who is this guitar for? Well, I think mostly collectors like me and people that want to own quirky and interesting guitars. Does the full thickness body give it any benefits at all? Well, I'm not sure that it gives it any tonal benefits, at least not with the EMG pickups. Maybe if I put passive pickups in it, it will have more low end than the thinner guitars, but in order to gain that low end, you're sacrificing with a heavier guitar, your back is gonna hurt more, and you catch my drift. If you're not curious about this guitar or a collector, you're better off with your thin body Eclipses. And before I move on with the review, I'm gonna show you a couple of pictures that I took of this particular guitar and a friend's regular Eclipse-I CTM, not the full thickness version, and the differences in the body thickness of both. My Eclipse has a 55mm body thickness and no cutaways in the back, also binding in the back. His is around 37mm with the cutaways as well. The neck profile and thickness felt the same overall in both guitars, the headstock angle seems the same, so only the body thickness and the colorways are different. Here are the official specs. We have a maple cap on a mahogany body with custom binding, 55mm full thickness body, mahogany neck with binding, ebony fingerboard with flag inlays, Goto Magnum lock tuners, Goto Tunematic bridge, gold hardware, 22 extra jumbo frets, and a set of EMG pickups 8160. And that's the only difference with my guitar. Mine are swapped with the EMG 8185 set. Other than that, it's stock in a great condition. So the most important spec in this guitar is the full thickness 55mm body. Before I move on to the review, I'm gonna clean and oil the fingerboard, and I have to say I absolutely hate these Goto Magnum Lock self-locking tuners. Luckily, at some point ESP stopped using them and switched to the Spurzels over there and other brands. If I were to keep this guitar, I would swap these immediately. As usual, I'm gonna run you through the specs. First of all, we have a mahogany full thickness body with a maple cap with a vintage black satin finish. It's not distressed, there's also the high gloss version. Yellow multiply binding for the top and the back, Goto bridge and the tailpiece, and these are supposed to be the 8160 but they're swapped. We have ebony fingerboard, 24.75 inch scale length, 22 extra jumbo frets and ESP flag inlays. God, I also hate the ratio on these. There are a couple of surprises in the pickup cavities. First of all, I was expecting shielding paint in the ground wire, but that's a quick connect plug. On a 2010 model, I was expecting the solder-on electronics. And at first I thought it's one of those transition guitars that has the quick connect plugs for the pickups and has the solder-on electronics and pots in the back. But everything became clearer to me once I inspected the pickups. Remember, the spec said that this comes with the EMG 8160, and look at this, EMG 85 for the neck position, made in 2021. Looks mint, has the gold logo. And this bridge pickup is the EMG 81, again from 2021, making this a set. And honestly, that's not a bad swap because I mainly play the EMG 81 for the bridge position, and the new owner will have brand new pickups. Well, almost brand new. Typical control scheme for Les Paul, we have a 3-way pickup selector, and this came with metal knobs for the pots. I've put on these black bells that my friend with the thinner version of this guitar gave me, and I've put them on thinking that these are the original pots, but the knobs cracked. That's because the pots were swapped out as well. This EMG set came with all of the electronics and the pots, so I'm guessing there's the quick connect in the back of this guitar as well. They function and are not falling apart, so I'm gonna keep them as they are. Oh, I forgot the screws. Short screws for the front pickup, long for the back. Active pickups always measure hot, so 22.2 for the EMG 81 in the bridge position, 20.9 for the neck EMG 85, both pickups 10.82. Everything else on the guitar is stock, including the Goto bridge and the tailpiece, and sure enough, Goto made in Japan. Seems to be in perfect condition too. The sellouts are perfect, no collapsing. The gold finish on it is not rubbed off as well, so it's adjusted by a flathead screwdriver and a thumb wheel, and it has metal inserts that go into the wood. It weighs 54 grams. A nice and solid bridge that intonates well. The tailpiece is unmarked, but this one is pretty heavy and I'm sure it's gonna be a record breaker. Yep, almost 100 grams. This is the heaviest tailpiece that I've documented. These struts easily chip when you adjust them with a narrow flathead screwdriver, so be careful. And as you can see, this finish easily gathers dust and it shows pretty easy on camera. Let's discuss the body and what sets it apart from other models. Yes, it's the 4-knob configuration, but later models like the 2014 James Hetfield Signature also has 4 knobs, but it's the body thickness that sets it apart. Also check out the lower horn on this model and check it out on the newer models. It's much more pronounced on the older model. Now that the fingerboard is nice and oiled, I can demonstrate it for you. Starting with the binding for the neck, that is the same beautiful color as the binding for the body. Goes well with the satin black, black side dot inlays, 22 extra jumbo frets, and the flag inlays are not mother of pearl, they're acrylic plastic. They're well chosen. I especially like the 12 fret with the ESP leathers. These are a bit more plain looking, but they're okay, I guess. This guitar has been well maintained, the frets are in perfect condition, but check out the ebony fingerboard. These early models have the darkest ebony fingerboard that I've seen on any guitar. In fact, I think that ESP somehow paints these boards. They're not supposed to be that dark. The nut is in perfect condition as well. There's a bit of a crack in the binding, but it's purely cosmetic. I'm gonna apply some Tune-It paste for stability. Here's what the waving flag ESP headstock looks like, and the truss rod cavity. It uses the same style of nut like the Gibson guitars. I'm gonna talk about these Go-To Magnum tuners later and why I don't like them. Other than that, on the headstock we have the Eclipse logo, which seems to be a sticker under the coating. It's not a silk screen like on Gibson models. The old ESP logo and multiply binding for the headstock as well. I noticed a couple of dings on the headstock edges, but nothing too bad. Here's what the truss rod cover looks like. It's in the shape of a waving flag like the headstock. It's 2-ply, black and white. It's held in place by a single screw, which makes it rattle a bit here when it's screwed down. The nut is around 43 mm wide. The 5th fret is at 47.5 mm. The 12th fret is at 53.3 mm. Thickness of the neck at the 1st fret 21.1 mm. Thickness at the 5th fret stays 21.1 mm as well. Getting a bit thicker, and that's considerably thicker at the 12th fret at 26 mm, but you see this is where the climb for the neck heel starts, so that definitely affects it. Otherwise it feels like a thin neck. The next two specs, like the 12-inch radius and 24.75-inch scale length, are lifted straight off the Gibson Les Paul, and it's expected. As a big Gibson Les Paul custom fan, this feels comfortable to me. As promised, a 52mm thick, full thickness body. This being a curved top guitar means that it gets even thicker at some places, but that's extra thick, and I'm gonna demonstrate why. This is thicker than a Gibson Les Paul custom. And before I show you one of the thickest and heaviest Les Paul customs that I've ever owned, keep in mind that this is a very thin satin finish and it's still much thicker than a Les Paul custom. And sure enough, here's my 2009 Alpine White. You see how the control scheme and the placement of the knobs is similar between the Gibson Les Paul Custom and the Eclipse. Of course, the Les Paul Custom came first. Sharper horn for the Eclipse though. The curve above the three-way switch is different on the Eclipse as well though. So not exactly the same body shape and curve, but close enough for a lawsuit. Here are those two chunky boys side by side. You can see that the Eclipse is definitely as thick as a Gibson Les Paul Custom, but even though that the Custom has a thick nitro finish, the Eclipse is still a bit thicker than it, as I shall demonstrate. Check this out, 54.1 at this point here, and getting thinner over here. It's not by much, but still it's a surprise that the Eclipse is thicker even with the thin finish. Now let me show you another difference. The spacing between the pickups, it's in Imperial, slightly different, but this is metric. Eclipses in ESP in general have metric measurements. So no swapping of bridges. I want to make something else clear before I move on to the electronics. Back binding doesn't mean that you have a full thickness guitar. Here's my 2014 Iron Cross that also has back binding, but the body thickness makes it a full thickness guitar. There are Eclipses there that have back binding even though it's broken by a cutaway, but are not the full thickness. Full thickness means over 2 inches. And this information should make my Asian viewers happy. As I already explained, multiply binding for the back, no cutaways of whatsoever, no high fret axis heel, unbroken anywhere. Back binding and 2 inches of thickness makes it a full thickness guitar. Moving on to the electronics compartment, and a bit of a surprise for me, let me get the 9V battery out of the way. Check it out, it's the Quick Connect all around. Shielding paint, ground wire, but the Quick Connect system, I think it was bought separately with the set of EMG pickups. It was an entire set with the pots, with the 3-way switch, with the output jack. Well, maybe not the 3-way switch, but what I would do with this guitar to make greater use of the full thickness bodies, swap to passive pickups. I think ESP made a mistake not selling this guitar with passive pickups. Active pickups kinda defeat the purpose. You can still feel a little bit of a difference, but with passive it will have been better. Here's what the cavity for the 3-way switch looks like. Here's the output jack, which is also part of the set of EMG pickups that had been swapped. Here's the backstrap button and the cover for the electronics compartment, which has shielding on the back as the one for the 3-way switch. For full disclosure, I wanna show you the only 2 issues that I found with this guitar, and I wouldn't even call them issues. It's this ding over here and a slight wear in the finish of the back of the neck that doesn't affect playability. A couple of scratches on the top and a couple of dings here on the headstock. Nothing too serious. Of course, that's not mint, it's good condition. The neck has the same satin finish as the entire guitar, but the thing with satin is that the more you play and touch it, it becomes glossier. Nice and comfy veloute near the first fret, and we have the ESP Standard Series logo and the Goto Magnum lock tuners. Serial number SS10, making this a 2010 guitar, Standard Series, and a cool number 11455. Here's what the neck profile looks like. I would call this a thin U. And here's the thing with that neck, even though it measured thick 26mm here on the 12th fret, this is because the neck heel climb starts over here. But the overall feel of the neck is that it's thin throughout. Same goes for the first fret, it measured as thick as the 12th because the volute is over here. From the first all the way to the 12th fret, this feels nice and comfortable. Feels like a Les Paul custom territory, to be honest. I'm gonna set this Eclipse in E standard with regular slinky Ernie Balls 10 to 46. Before I do that, I'm gonna apply some Music Nomad Tune It paste for stability. The way you put the strings on these locking tuners is the same as any locking tuner. You don't wrap the string around the poles like the Spurzos. Check this out, no wrapping around them. That's why they don't have enough space to be wrapped around. These lock from the back. These are self-locking, and here's the problem with them. You adjust the hole facing towards the nut, you put the string to, no slack left, and you start winding. And it's gonna take annoyingly long until the rod inside pushes the string up and locks. In fact, let me demonstrate how long it takes. See that? I'm rotating, nothing happens, nothing happens, nothing happens. So much revolution until the rod from inside starts to push up on the string and it catches and it starts to wind the string. And here we go, that's the moment where it catches. While I'm checking the string action, I'm gonna tell you why this is a problem. When you're putting the string on, it locks normally, but when you're taking it off, that strut from the inside, even when you start to unwind, it still holds on to the string, and most of the time it breaks it and you have to take it out with a damn plier. So that's why I hate these fucking tuners. Anyway, once I do the intonation, then I'm gonna cut the strings. After I adjust the threshold, I'm gonna put the cover. I've took the liberty to take off one of these knobs and break it, so I've replaced one of them, but I'm assuming that the rest of them are gonna crack as well, because as I already mentioned, these bells are not suitable for the EMG replacement pots that come with the EMG pickup sets. So these are gonna crack, but for now they hold in place pretty well. They seem to rotate, they're not catching on my finger or anything, so they're on. Anyway, this is what the original ESP case looks like. 1, 2, 3 latches, this one locks, sturdy leather handle, white stitching and the ESP plate with the logo. Here's the underside with the hinges and some support. It's a pretty sturdy case. This is what it looks like on the inside and it fits the full thickness guitar perfectly. This means that the thinner guitars will not fit properly in here and I'm gonna put that to the test in a minute. Other than that, looks like a regular Eclipse case with the black lining inside and the compartment for accessories, some silica gel in here and the key for the locking latch. Here's what that Eclipse shaped case looks like without the guitar. Okay, so here's the full thickness case, here's my Iron Cross case. I'm gonna check something out. Here is the Iron Cross, here is the full thickness. I'm assuming that the full thickness will not fit in the Iron Cross case, and sure enough, yeah, it catches and sticks out, so it's not suitable for regular Eclipse cases. Well, you can see that my Iron Cross or any thin body Eclipse will rattle inside while this doesn't close properly, so it needs the full thickness case. Even though being thicker than my white Les Paul Custom, it weighs a kilogram less than it, so that's not the worst case of a thick mahogany guitar. It is a manageable weight. And just to compare, here's my friend's Eclipse-I, the non-full thickness, at 763 pounds. I'm gonna start by giving you my personal subjective opinion about this guitar. First of all, as you've probably heard in other videos, I don't like satin finishes. Second, I'm not a fan of the combination of black and gold. Third, I'm not a fan of active pickups. And last but not least, as most people, I have back problems. If you're like me, this is not the guitar for you. However, I also happen to collect guitars and do YouTube reviews. And for that purpose, it's the perfect guitar. First of all, it's rare. As of right now, there are none listed on Reverb. They pop up from time to time and they tend to cost from 3,000 euro and up. Second of all, it is a dream guitar for a lot of people. Plays great, has a thin neck, sounds amazing. If you like big boy guitars with thick bodies and you're not a fan of Gibson, this is the Eclipse for you. If none of the things that I mentioned matter to you, you're better off buying the E2 with the slimmer body or any other ESP Eclipse, not adding to the value because it's a full thickness version. Don't get me wrong, these are not unicorns, they are not that hard to find, they pop up from time to time, but they're not gonna get cheaper with time. This guitar is always gonna increase its value and it's gonna stay solid because it's built like a tank. It's a good build quality. I'm pretty sure that there might be some tonal differences with the thinner version, but unless I put some passive pickups and do A/B tests, I'm not able to confirm this. Until then, this was a great guitar to own and I'm happy that I bought it.